all around the world, we're seeing people have these incredible innovative developments, things that are making the planet better. And it's through that activism, through that passion, and through that creativity that we're starting to see incredible companies be built. We're starting to see remarkable projects getting launched, and we're seeing people take bold ideas and turning them into reality. And that's what this is about. It is about the people who are going to make the future, the next-gen leaders who are really directing the change. And so we wanted to bring up some of those next-gen leaders to share what they're working on. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our first group of next-gen leaders to the stage, Karen and Alice Chave.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alice. And I'm Karen. And what an incredible music act that was. So thank you. Let's start with a question. Who here is wearing some gold today? Please raise your hands. OK, some of you. Well, guess what? Even if you're not wearing jewelry, you're still most likely carrying gold in your pockets.
Now, what could Karen possibly be referring to? Our phones. Our phones are incredible. Inside are over 60 different elements that have been extracted, processed, and transported across continents, one of the elements being gold. Despite that, every year when the new upgrade arrives, we start looking at our current phone like it's worthless. And this way of thinking creates a big problem. By 2030, us humans are expected to generate 82 million tons of electronic waste in 1 year. If that number doesn't mean anything to you, that's about 3 million lorries piled with electronics. And today, only 22% of our electronic waste is being recycled properly. Now, I promise it's getting less depressing. When comparing a ton of rock from a gold mine to a ton of electronics, which do you think would have more gold? Electronics actually has up to 400 times more gold. And remember, gold is one of the most desirable materials on Earth. And at the minute, it's sitting idle. So, if the gold already exists above the ground, why are we still continuing to mine gold at such huge environmental and social costs? I studied environmental engineering at university, and I later worked in the recycling sector, where I was just shocked by how disconnected we are from the waste that we produce. And in short, that's what led my sister, Karen, and me down a road we never expected. We created Inkador, a fine jewelry company that creates gold jewelry from gold extracted from electronics.
Now, how do we both get here? It's funny because our parents always put a very big focus on STEM, which is why, like Alice, I studied engineering. But I've always had this more entrepreneurial and creative side to me that I felt never quite fit. So some of my side quests included selling imported candy to all my friends at school. So that was me at primary school. To marketing my watercolor prints online, or more recently, organizing female founder events across London. But my two worlds really collided when I started designing jewelry with Alice on weekends, which very quickly, as you can see, became a lot more serious. It's a place where I can express my creativity whilst also doing something meaningful for the planet. Our engineering degrees taught us to be analytical and to problem solve. On the other hand, jewelry is almost the opposite. It's emotional and it's deeply personal. And it's really within that contrast where we saw our opportunity. Could two very naive sisters take what the world throws away and turn it into jewelry someone could never let go of? So it sounds like a great idea, right? But it's not that simple. There is good recycling and bad recycling, and that difference matters. Electronics contain a lot of hazardous materials, so when gold is extracted informally, that same word, recycled, can hide some serious harm. From toxic fumes in open air burning to strong chemicals leaching into our soils and water. To recover gold responsibly, everyone needs to take part, and it takes a collective effort. So we've broken this down into 3 steps. Part 1 is the traceable collection of electronics, where phones and laptops are directed into a formal recycling stream rather than disappearing into landfill or informal waste routes. Part 2 is the gold extraction process. We work with specialist facilities that separate different metals from circuit boards using regulated heat and chemistry, and in some very cool cases, naturally occurring bacteria. And part 3 is shifting perception.
This is where we come in.
Because we believe that the more people understand the electronic waste crisis, the more electronics find their way back to step 1, collection. So our mindset applies beyond gold. For example, the necklaces that we're both wearing today has gold from old laptops, and the diamonds were grown in the Swiss Alps using solar and hydro energy.
So since we started 20 months ago, we have successfully sold bespoke jewelry to celebrities. We have also featured in top press publications, and we are currently experiencing a 5x year-on-year revenue growth. But in saying that, jewelry is only one part of our company. When we first started Incador, we asked ourselves, why aren't people recycling more electronics? And then we quickly came to the conclusion that recycling doesn't feel inspiring and it doesn't feel sexy. Am I right? Yes. I'm going to take that as a yes. We all know that recycling is the right thing to do, but in reality, the bin is always hidden at the back of a building next to a smelly bin. But if we want people to build better recycling habits, we need to create a movement that people actually want to join. And that's what we're striving for at Incador, to make recycling desirable. Or as we like to say, to make recycling vogue. And this is how our Tech for Treasure campaign was born. We started a pilot with University College London, placing stylish collection banks across campuses. Yes, we know it's a small contribution in the grand scheme of electronic waste, but we like to think it's a small step forward. What we found from this experience is that if you want to reach the younger generation, it's no longer enough for a solution to just be right. The solution also needs to feel authentic and worth sharing. If recycling looks like an afterthought, people will treat it like one. But with good design and creative storytelling, the younger generation are more likely to get involved.
Being invited to this incredible event has sparked a new dream for us. We're in Austria, the home of Red Bull racing. And as you may know, Formula One has recently gone on a sustainable journey. We want to spread our message further, and we would love the opportunity to create the very first Austrian Grand Prix trophy using gold recovered from electronics. So if anybody here works at Red Bull, this is our cheeky request.
And with that, we'll leave you with one last thought. We hope that the next time you open that drawer full of electronics, which I'm sure most of you have back at home, we hope you don't think of it as waste, but as an ingenious invention with a past and a huge potential to become precious again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh my, Alice and Karen, first of all, you two are ridiculously impressive. I mean, you're scientists, activists, and you're entrepreneurs. That's incredible. And one of the things I wanted to say was, you guys, I love that idea of making recycling vogue, because let's be honest, at least in the past, when people picture climate activism, they picture people in tie-dye shirts wearing Birkenstocks. But I love that you guys are making it look fashionable. So that brings me to the question with Inkador, as you look at this jewelry, what's been the biggest challenge to getting people to adapt it? Is it driving it, making it fashionable, or is it really conveying the message that with this jewelry, you're doing something good?
Mm-hmm. I think, interestingly, the young generation are loving it, and so we're getting great reception from them. They understand our message completely. It's more, I think, conveying that message to the older generation.
Why'd you look at me with that part? That hurt.
That was not intentional.
Well, that's great. So what are the next steps for Inkador? Obviously, looking for this Red Bull partnership. What's next?
We would love to spread our message further. So that could include, for example, using gold in the Austrian Grand Prix trophy. We also know there are lots of very talented Olympians in this space, so we're also wondering if it would be a possibility to also produce the next gold medals out of very cool recycled gold from electronics.
Or even just their jewelry.
Well, very cool. And ladies, last thing, how can people get in touch with you if they want to follow up and do more?
We're on Instagram under Inkador Jewelry. You can email us and also go on our website.
Ladies and gentlemen, one more time for Alice and Karen Chave. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know about you, but does anybody feel a little underaccomplished when you hear them speak? Well, ladies and gentlemen, now it's time to learn about our next speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the founder and CEO of Insemo, Birgit Mitter. And I hope I said that correctly. So, Birgit, I have a bit of a science background, and I was looking over what Insemo does. And again, what I love is how many intelligent people we have attacking these problems. So, for those who may not understand this, can you explain what you're doing, how you're using biochemistry to make a difference?
Okay, so first of all, thank you very much for the invitation, and good afternoon to everybody. We at Insemo is a deep tech startup, a spin-off of the Austrian Institute of Technology, and our mission is to enable the transition from chemical to biological seed treatment. And we do this by developing a new seed treatment technology that addresses the key limitation of the application of beneficial microorganisms in agriculture. So the conventional application technologies like seed coating are not suitable because the bacteria die off very often after a couple of weeks or even days. So instead of coating them on top of the seeds, or putting them on top, we inject them into individual seeds. And inside the seed, they stay viable for at least 6 months or more, and they are active when the plant needs them most. And how we do this? We develop and build machines that in high throughput fix individual seeds, cut them open, here you can see the cut, inject the microbial suspension and seal the cut again. And our machines do this about 4,000 times per second.
Per second?
Per second, yes.
How large are these seeds we're talking about? This must be incredibly precise work.
It is precise. It's like, our machine currently treats very well soya seeds, so this is maybe half of a centimeter in diameter. So we are here acting at the edge of physics, I would say.
You're like Tony Stark here. This is incredible. So we heard from Karen and Alice talk about getting into STEM. Their parents encourage them. What about you? What drew you to microbiology?
To microbiology, I always wanted to be a researcher, and I always wanted to know something nobody else knows. And the world of microbiology is still largely unknown. So we know just about 10% of all microorganisms which are living on this planet. And this actually inspired me to study microbiology. And I've been studying the plant microbiome, so all the microorganisms colonizing the plants for about 20 years. And I learned a lot about the importance of these microorganisms in plant health and plant nutrition. And this actually was the motivation to bring this knowledge to application and to bring these plant microbe interactions or make this accessible to farmers for a more sustainable agriculture.
So how do you make that transition? As you said, you were a researcher. How do you then become this bold entrepreneur, launch this company, and take it to that next step? What drew you to that? How did you do it?
Yeah, actually, I think it was a logical step because, as I mentioned, I saw the potential of microorganisms to substitute agrochemicals in the field, and I really wanted to bring this to application. So the step was quite short to fund the company together with my colleague Nikolaus Pfaffenblichler. And here in Austria, we have a quite good funding regime for startups. So innovative ideas are very well supported in Austria with public funding, but also with private fundings we get. So I think this was the main drivers in setting up this company.
Well, so often we talk about feelings and emotional pleas with climate activism. I love hearing logic and science being applied as well. Now, we have a lot of young people here, people who may be looking to follow in your footsteps or maybe to forge their own path. What advice, having gone through this whole process, what advice would you have for the young people here?
Yeah, maybe one advice is do not listen too much to advices of others. So go your own way, and please are not afraid of making mistakes, because we learn the most of our own mistakes. And if you have a real idea, then start acting, because everything is better than remaining passive.
Very good words there. So you've been on this journey now for decades. The Austrian World Summit has just celebrated a decade. For you, for Ensemo, what would be the next big steps in the decade ahead? What would you, in your dream, love to see?
Yeah. Okay, in my dream, I'd love to see seed-jection, this is our technology, being the gold standard in seed treatment technology, and by this, making a real shift from chemical to biological seed treatment, that at the end, we can, all of us, profit from safely produced food.
You know, Birgit, again, I just want to commend you. One of the things I've loved that we heard this morning, I know Noleg Forrest was talking about this, was not just having these solutions and making it feel that they cost a lot, but making them feel that they're the best solution, they're the most efficient. So for those who may be inspired by you, and we know they want to get their own advice, but who may want to be a part of your company or just reach out for some advice, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, just check out our homepage, ensemo.com, very easy. And you will find either my email address or our company's email address. And actually we are right now looking for different young talents in the area of machine engineering, software engineering, automatization. So whoever's interested, just reach out to us.
Birgit Mitter, ladies and gentlemen, founder and CEO of Ensemo, thank you so much for sharing your time. Well, I hope you heard that, young next-gen leaders out there. You're getting some job opportunities here. This is incredible. But now it's time to hear about our next speaker. So we are joined now from Melbourne by Anjali Sharma. Anjali, how's it going in Melbourne?
Hello, it's very late at night here, but thank you so much for having me.
Well, I think the message would be have a Red Bull. So you're a climate activist, a legal change maker. What drew you to this climate activism?
So I was born in India. I migrated to Australia when I was 10 months old, but all of my family still lives in India. And I don't know if anybody in the audience has seen the headlines coming just recently out of India, but this is a country that is on the front lines of climate change. It's currently suffering through a heat wave that has already taken lives, and unfortunately, this is a yearly story. It's heat waves and then it's floods that destroy lives, they destroy livelihoods, they take lives. It's an agricultural economy, which means that people who rely on farming for their income often suffer through climate disaster. And unfortunately, this has been the case for a lot of my family for many, many years now. And living on the other side of the world, I've always thought there's something that has to be done.
So we've heard from some scientists, but you're taking a different approach here to fighting climate change. You're using the law. So how do you do that? How do you use the law to make a difference?
Yeah, so I started through the Federal Court of Australia. I was the lead litigant in a court case against our former Federal Environment Minister, Susan Lee, and I argued that she, as the Federal Environment Minister, owed all young people a duty of care to protect us from the impacts of climate change. So our case was based on the knowledge that it is my generation and generations to come that will really face the brunt of climate change, and that if she, as a government decision maker, holds so much responsibility and so much weight in this area, then naturally it makes sense that as she uses and exercises her powers, she has to do so with our best interests at heart. So initially we were successful in that case, and the Federal Court of Australia found that this duty of care did exist. A few months later, it was overturned on appeal, unfortunately, but this has led to now a legislative campaign, and we are campaigning for this duty of care to be legislated through our federal parliament, and we've made some really positive steps in that area.
Well, that's incredible. I love the idea of using the law. So you're not a lawyer. You just realized how to use the law to make a difference. Is that right?
That's correct. I'm not a lawyer yet. This hasn't completely turned me away from the law. I'm 4 years through my 5-year law degree. So let's see how that goes.
And so say you get your law degree, what would the next steps be? What do you see for your future here?
I've met some amazing and incredible environmental lawyers through, I guess, my journey in using the law in climate activism. So I would love to join that chain of amazing people who are understanding that the law is actually a very, very important tool to hold governments, to hold big polluters to account, to answer to my future and to the futures of generations of people to come after me. But also I do hope for a future where actually this isn't needed anymore, because I think that it should be unsaid that governments, when they do discharge their powers, have to do so with my best interests at heart as a young person and the best interests of people who will come after me. This shouldn't be something that people should be having to fight for through the courts. So, I wish for a future where people don't have to take these steps, these costly, time-consuming steps. But as long as this is still a problem, I would very much love to be part of that fight.
So as you've undertaken this fight in Australia, where has most of your support come from? Do you see it largely from the younger generation, or do you feel like you're waking up everybody?
It is incredibly diverse. Last year, we signed an open letter that was delivered to our government that had the support of many, many big names across Australia and across the world. We had leaders and government members from Pacific countries signing our open letter. We had Australians of the Year and Nobel laureates signing our open letter. We had a lot of Australia's medical fraternity signing our letter. That's big doctors and obstetricians and podiatrists, and people realizing that climate change is actually a very, very severe health issue, not just for not just for all generations, but particularly for younger generations and for generations to come, as climate change will increase in the burden that it heaves on younger generations. We had support from members of our government as well. We, of course, had the support of young people, of people who are really staring down the barrel at a future that is going to be characterized by climate disaster increasing in frequency and in severity. But we're very lucky to say that this support is across the board.
Well, speaking of support, you have a lot of movers and shakers in this room, and I know a lot of people are watching all around the world. So for you, to help your movement, what would be your big ask of people?
I think my big ask is that think about my generation and think about generations to come, and the fact that climate change will impact every area of our lives. It's not just climate disaster being an immediate physical threat. We're now talking about climate change posing a risk to our income, to our food security, as it disrupts fresh produce and the production of things that are really, really vital to our health. We're talking about respiratory diseases, about increased ticks and flea-borne diseases. We're talking about increased stillbirths and people being denied a chance at a healthy life because of climate change. We're talking about housing and housing being affected by climate change. It's not just a singular thing now, it's going to affect every aspect of our lives. This is why we are calling for a duty of care, because climate change is the biggest threat in my generation. And as governments are exercising their powers at all areas of their remits, they should be thinking about how it will impact climate change and how it will impact my future. If there are government decision makers in the room, no matter where they might be from, no matter what level of government, think about how you are exercising your powers and whether or not there is a legislated duty of care for you to ensure that you are thinking about my generation and generations to come. And I firmly believe that there should be one. We're always willing to work with different people and different levels of government to put that in place.
Well, Anjali, I could say your legal training is clearly going well because you know how to make a very convincing argument. So the last thing, for people who want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
As any young person would say, honestly, it's social media. We're on Instagram at Duty of Care Campaign. That's 4 words, Duty of Care Campaign. You can't forget it. And we're always able to be contacted there.
Duty of Care Campaign. Hopefully people are going to be lighting it up. Anjali, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.